Hey guys, John here from HydroEmpire.com, and today we're with Josh from Clonex slash Hydrodynamics, and we're going to talk a little bit about their product line. Josh, what's going on? How are you?
Good, man.
Glad
Good.
to have you here. I see that the lineup has grown a little bit in the last few years, I guess you could say. We have our tried and true Clonex that everybody knows. Tell us a little bit more about the lineup right now.
No, you're absolutely correct. So the line has expanded substantially in the last 5 years. We had the addition of the Clonex Mist, and of course, traditionally we had Clonex Gel, created in 1988-89. Been in the North American market for a number of years. Clonex Clone Solution, which is our top-selling adolescent, baby clone feed, and then of course now we've added Clonex Mist to the line, which is our foliar mist for your moms and your cuttings, sort of an amino seaweed extract based product. And then lastly, now we have the Clonex Root Maximizer, which is our mycorrhizae line. So consisting of two lines, a granular and a soluble product line, which is just about a year old. So we're really just hitting the market with that, getting it out there, and beginning to popularize that additional Clonex product.
Right. So we've been selling a ton of the Clonex gel. I mean, we can't even keep it on our shelves, but we've actually started to see a lot of traction on the Root Maximizer, both the soluble and granular. Can you tell me a little bit more about that stuff?
Sure. So the Clonex Root Maximizer, obviously it's a mycorrhizae line, beneficial bacteria, expansion of root zone and root development. We've seen in recent years just the proliferation of those types of products in the market. And being a propagation company, a rooting-based company, we felt it was important to take note of that and offer a product from Hydrodynamics that was part of the Clonex line. What makes the Clonex Root Maximizer unique is that it is produced in vivo, which is a little bit different than traditional ones that are done in vitro. In vivo is basically done where the product is produced and harvested from plant roots. So it has a little bit better soil matrix, soil environment. It's a bit more earthy than, say, some of the ones out there that are traditionally done using the kitty litter-like substance that is done in vitro. So that separates a little bit. The product it also has humic acid in there. It's also a mix, so it's a combination of it's got the humic acid in there. It's got different species: Bacillus, Glomus, Trichoderma, and it's endo but no ecto. So it's more designed for the annual type plant species and effective. You can be obviously used at the root zone, applied during cloning, or even mixed in and watered in. There's two different types: granular and soluble, which can be used differently depending on your grow medium and your application.
Being that we are, a hydro site, how does it work in a hydroponic environment?
Okay, gotcha. So, obviously Hydro Empire specializing in hydroponic related. For a hydroponic environment, we recommend using the soluble formulation. It of course, being that it's produced in vivo, it has some peat in there, some particulate. So in my opinion, I think the best way to apply it is as a root drench, drain to waste type scenario. Some people like to keep that rooting environment and reservoirs sterile. Other people do like to introduce the beneficial bacteria mycorrhizae. For HDI, of course, ours has a humic acid in there as well. So it will mix with water, but you will see some sediment. But again, also you want to have an environment for it to take root into to help expand the root zone and see benefits. Products like these tend to take some time to work. So in my opinion, it's best in an environment where you have, in a hydroponic environment where there is, say, Grodan slabs or large cubes where it can proliferate versus, say, an NFT trough or, a situation like a DWC where it's just constant water flow. I find that those are better sterile environments.
Right. In my experience as a grower, I always used to use mycorrhizae products as a dip, especially in Grodan and in soil. I would actually take my cuttings or clones, and once they're rooted, dip straight into product and then go into my media. How does your product work like that?
That's a great way to use it. I think if you're in that type of scenario, it's probably the best way to use it because you're getting some initially that touches and has some face time with the roots, and then obviously you're maximizing the benefit of it, and then putting it into the medium where it's going, and it's already had those spores to inoculate, and should be able to take off from there. I think that's probably the most cost-effective way to use it too in that type of scenario.
Would you recommend using it in both ways, so a dip and then reintroducing it through the soluble?
I certainly don't think that hurts at all. It's all a matter of grower opinion or preference. But yeah, absolutely. I think there's nothing wrong with reintroducing it later on. I think, as long as they understand that it's not a product that is going to be so soluble that you mix it into water and you can't see it. Because it has the humic in there, because it has some of the more natural soil environment, little bits of peat and things like that, you'll notice it there, and the humic is dark. Mm-hmm. So watering it in a format like a drain to waste or situation like that, I think is great. If you're mixing up a big hydroponic reservoir, that's where you make the call. Okay, am I using some organics? This kind of mixes well. This works. Or am I using sort of a fully synthetic fertilizer that's super clean? Do I want to do that? So I think it's a preference thing.
It's awesome. Is there any other recommendations you have for your products that aren't on the bottles, or any special pro tips that you can give us?
As far as what I hear on the market, a lot of people will use the Clonex clone solution as a pre-soak for their Grodan, the rock wool. I think that's a good idea. I've heard, ironically, people will take 1 gallon and use it as a unit of measurement in a 40-gallon reservoir and then dip cubes. That's sort of an LA recipe or LA thing, apparently. So I think that's a beneficial thing to do. We also have a product called Europonic Rock Wool Soak, which is similar but buffers the rock wool just a little better, adding bicarbonate. So its stability has that longevity. Clonex Mist, I think a good pro tip for that is to ensure that you don't overspray it. It is called Clonex Mist for a reason. You do lightly mist it. You don't want to oversaturate and drench. Products like that, you want to be careful because, obviously you have lights of the plant. You don't want to create large, water droplets or create any type of burn. But I do know the Clonex Mist has been real effective for people even when they have, marginal clones that are sort of starting to yellow out a little bit. Hitting them with a little foliar application will help green them up. And just sort of the assimilation of the seaweed extracts and aminos, not necessarily listed on the bottle, but in there, help with that production of auxin in the tissue of the plant, sort of precursor to rooting development. So,
I love using the product for even during transplant, because the amino acids really help those plants get their transplant shock, adjustment.
Yep, absolutely. And in terms of transplant shock, that's one of the benefits that you see with the Clonex clone solution is on the label we do list out it has thiamine B1. So it has the B vitamin, which is kind of historically something that's an antidote for transplant shock. And then also one thing, about our products, our Clonex clone solution, every element is listed out on the bottle. You can see the percentages, which is beneficial, so it's a complete food for plants or for adolescents and clones. So, yeah, those are kind of a couple tips.
Nice. And I assume you guys are always developing new products?
Yeah, we are definitely working on new products, things in the mix, trying to stay within our lane, identify and understand where our strong suit is within the Clonex line, rooting and propagation. And those products do well. Obviously, on the likes of Hydro Empire, customers see the videos and the great content you guys create, stimulates, improve sales of the product, and popularizing that line. And of course, that's our strongest area is propagation. So I'm sure, you guys recognize that, and that's why, we create the content we do, which we appreciate.
Well, Clonex is by far our best seller, and we love selling it because it's such an easy sell. Yep. Everybody in the industry knows about it, or at least should know about it. And if they don't, you can learn all about that on hydroempire.com. And thanks again, Josh, for coming out. It really means a lot to learn about all these products. There's definitely a few things that I didn't know that I learned today. And for everybody else out there, I'm sure you guys learned a ton.
Thanks for coming out. That's great. Thanks so much. I absolutely appreciate it.